Hello and welcome to the Learn English Lab. I'm Mike, and I'm so glad you could join us for this deep dive into something really important for success. Well, in any field, but especially if you're a student. Time management. And to help us make sense of it all, we have Sarah, an expert in making every minute count.
Hi, everyone. It's always so exciting to see how we can make the most of our time.
I don't know about you, but my school years always felt like I was racing against the clock, Classes, homework, trying to have some kind of social life.
Right.
It felt like there was never enough time to get everything done.
Yeah.
I bet some of you listening feel the same way.
I think a lot of students can relate to that.
So why is time management so important for students?
Well, good time management. It's kind of like a superpower that can help you reach your goals faster. And it's not just about cramming more into your schedule. It's about making choices about what to focus on and when.
So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. When you manage your time well, you actually free up more time for the things you enjoy, hobbies, friends, even just taking a break. It's about creating a more balanced and less stressful experience as a student.
Yeah, I think we all want that.
Right.
Less stress.
Yeah.
So what are some of the best ways students can take control of their schedules and find time for everything?
Okay. Well, one of the most basic but important strategies is planning and scheduling. It might sound simple, but it can really make a difference.
Okay.
Imagine this. You have a color-coded schedule that shows all your commitments, classes, study time, even when you're going to the gym or hanging out with friends.
Okay.
And then you use your agenda to keep track of daily tasks and deadlines. It's like having a roadmap for your time.
I like that. A roadmap for your time.
Yeah.
So it's like taking the guesswork out of your day.
Exactly. And within that roadmap, you can use something called time blocking.
Time block?
Yeah. It's where you basically divide your day into blocks of time and you assign specific tasks to each block. So for example, Monday morning from 9 to 11, you're researching for that history paper. Tuesday afternoon is for working on those presentation slides.
So it's like planning your day in advance to help you stay focused.
Exactly.
Have you ever tried time blocking?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did it work for you?
It really helped me, especially during exam season when I felt overwhelmed. Time blocking made those long study sessions seem less scary because I broke them down into smaller chunks.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got our schedule, we're time blocking. What's next?
Well, let's be honest. One of the biggest challenges these days is all the digital distractions, social media notifications that urge to just check your phone one more time.
Oh yeah, I think we've all been there. Tell me about it.
It's a constant battle for our attention.
So how can students fight those digital distractions? What are some practical things they can do?
One important thing is to create a dedicated study space. Find a spot that tells your brain, okay, it's time to focus.
So like a quiet corner of the library, a desk in your room, even a cozy spot in a coffee shop.
Exactly. The key is to make it distraction-free. So no phone, no TV, no unnecessary tabs open on your laptop.
It's like building a fortress against distractions.
You got it.
But what about those times when you can't physically escape the noise? Like in a noisy dorm or on a crowded bus?
Oh, in those situations, noise-canceling headphones can be a lifesaver. They create a bubble of focus, even in the most chaotic environments. Some people also find that listening to calming music or white noise can help drown out those distractions.
I love white noise. It's like a blanket for my brain.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've carved out a study space. We're armed with noise-canceling headphones. What else can students do to minimize distractions?
Sometimes the best thing to do is a digital detox, especially during those dedicated study blocks.
Digital detox.
Yeah. Turn off your phone completely or use one of those website blocking apps to temporarily block those time-wasting websites and apps. It might seem extreme, but it can be really freeing.
It's like hitting the pause button on the digital world so you can get some actual work done.
Exactly. But of course, we can't live in a digital-free bubble all the time. So what about those times when you need to be connected, but you still want to stay focused?
Right. That's a good point. Are there any strategies for that?
Definitely. One thing is to be mindful of your notifications. Do you really need to see every email or social media update as it comes in? Probably not. Consider turning off those non-essential notifications during study time. And if you're working on your computer, try closing any unnecessary tabs or windows that might tempt you to stray from your work.
This is about being more intentional with technology instead of letting it control our attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've created a haven for focus. We're battling those distractions. What's next on our time management adventure?
Well, another challenge many students face is those big looming assignments, research papers, final exams. They can feel so overwhelming.
Oh, I remember those. The procrastination monster would always show up whenever I had a big deadline.
Right.
So how can students conquer procrastination and tackle those big tasks without feeling completely overwhelmed?
The key is to break those large assignments down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Instead of staring down a 10-page research paper, focus on writing 1 paragraph a day. Instead of cramming for an exam the night before, break the material into smaller sections and review them over time.
It's like, how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah,
One bite at a time.
exactly.
Breaking it down makes it seem less scary and more doable.
That's a great analogy. And each of those smaller bites can have its own mini deadline. This creates a sense of urgency and helps you stay on track.
It's like building a staircase to success one step at a time.
I like that.
Speaking of tackling big challenges, have you ever heard of the eat that frog technique?
I have. It's a great way to overcome procrastination.
Yeah.
The idea is to tackle your most challenging or dreaded task first thing in the morning.
It's like ripping off the Band-Aid.
Wow.
Get that big, scary task out of the way. Then you can approach the rest of the day feeling accomplished and less stressed.
Exactly. And once you've eaten that frog, everything else seems easier in comparison.
Okay, so we're getting things done, we're managing our time, but we're also working smarter, not harder, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Working smarter, not harder is all about maximizing your efficiency and effectiveness.
Okay, I like the sound of that. So how can students embrace that work smarter philosophy?
One of the key things is to focus on one task at a time. We live in a world that glorifies multitasking, but research actually shows that it can make us less efficient and lower the quality of our work. It's like trying to run in 2 directions at once. You'll end up getting nowhere fast.
I've definitely fallen into that multitasking trap before, and it always makes me feel scattered and exhausted. It's so much better just focus on one thing at a time and then move on to the next task once it's done.
Absolutely.
So how can students train their brains to resist multitasking?
It takes practice, but you can try setting a timer for like 25 minutes and commit to focusing on just one task during that time. Even short bursts of focused work can be really productive. And then when the timer goes off, you can take a short break to recharge before moving on to the next task.
So it's like giving your brain permission to really dive into one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I can see how that would lead to better results and less mental fatigue. What are some other ways students can work smarter, not harder?
Another helpful tip is to use time tracking apps.
Time tracking apps.
Yeah. They can really open your eyes to how you're spending your time. They're like a mirror that shows you those hidden time sinks that you might not even be aware of. Once you know where your time is going, you can make better decisions about how to use it more effectively.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think we all have those sneaky time wasters that we don't even realize are eating up our day.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite time tracking apps that you recommend?
There are lots of good ones, both free and paid. Rescue Time Toggle and Clockify are popular. They can track your computer usage, your phone usage, even how much time you spend on specific tasks.
Cool. I'll have to check those out. Okay, so we've planned our time, battled distractions, learned to work smarter. What else is important for students who want to master this whole time management thing?
One thing that's often overlooked is the power of downtime. Breaks and holidays. It's easy to just think of them as time to relax and forget about school, but you can actually use that time to catch up on studies or get ahead on assignments.
That's such a good point. It's like using the off-season to prepare for the next game.
Exactly. Even spending a little bit of your break to review material or start on upcoming assignments can make a big difference when you go back to your regular schedule. It's all about setting yourself up for success.
I wish I'd known that back when I was a student.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about planning distractions, working smarter, and utilizing downtime. What else is important?
Building good habits is really important. It's like laying a strong foundation for success. When you establish consistent routines for studying, sleeping, and even leisure time, you create structure in your life, and that naturally improves your time management in the long run.
Routines are so powerful. It's like putting your productivity on autopilot.
Exactly. When you have established routines, you don't have to waste energy deciding what to do next or when to do it. It frees up your mind to focus on the task at hand.
So it's like your brain is saying, okay, it's study time, or it's time to relax, and your body just follows along.
Exactly.
What are some good routines that students can try to incorporate into their lives?
It can be simple things like having a consistent wake-up time and bedtime, creating a dedicated study schedule, or setting specific times for meals and exercise. The key is to find what works for you and stick with it.
It's about finding a rhythm that works for you, a rhythm that supports both your productivity and your well-being.
Right. And another important part of those routines is good sleep hygiene.
Sleep is often the first thing to go when we're stressed.
Yeah.
But it's really the foundation for a productive day.
Exactly. When we don't get enough sleep, it's like trying to function with a foggy brain. It's so much harder to focus, learn, and remember things. So consistency is key. Stick to a regular sleep schedule, even on weekends, and create a relaxing bedtime routine to help your brain wind down.
That makes sense. I know that caffeine and alcohol before bed can really mess with my sleep. And having a calm sleep environment, dark, quiet, and cool, can make a huge difference. Are there any other sleep tips you'd like to share?
Well, stress and anxiety can definitely interfere with sleep. So finding healthy ways to manage stress, like exercise, meditation, or spending time in nature, is really important for good sleep hygiene.
So it's about taking care of both your mind and body.
Yeah, it's all connected.
When you take care of yourself, you're naturally more equipped to manage your time and reach your goals.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about routines and sleep. What else should students know about time management?
Another important skill is learning to say no.
Say no. Isn't that a little rude?
Not at all. It's about realizing that you can't do everything, and it's okay to set boundaries. It's about knowing how much you can handle and making sure you're not overcommitting yourself to the point of burnout.
I think a lot of students struggle with that. You know, they feel like they have to say yes to everything or they'll disappoint people. But sometimes saying no is the best thing you can do for yourself.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's about setting healthy boundaries and understanding that your time and energy are valuable.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And sometimes saying no to one thing allows you to say yes to something else that's even more important to you. It's about making choices that are aligned with your values and priorities.
Okay, I see your point. And on that note, it's also really important to be flexible when it comes to time management.
Oh, absolutely.
Life is unpredictable.
It is.
Things happen, plans change,
Right.
and sometimes you just have to go with the flow.
Right.
So how can students build that flexibility into their time management plans?
Well, one way is to build some buffer time into your schedule.
Buffer time.
Yeah, don't fill every minute of your day with tasks and appointments. Leave some wiggle room for unexpected things or just for those moments when you need to take a break. And don't be afraid to adjust your plans as needed.
It's about embracing the unexpected and knowing that things won't always go according to plan.
Exactly.
And most importantly, remember to make time for things that you enjoy.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to get caught up in being productive and achieving goals that we forget to take care of ourselves.
Right.
What are some ways students can make sure they're not neglecting their well-being while trying to manage their time?
It's about making time for those things that nourish your soul, whether it's spending time with loved ones, pursuing hobbies, getting out in nature, or just taking some time for yourself to relax and recharge. Those things aren't luxuries, they're necessities.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about creating a life that feels balanced and fulfilling, not just productive.
Exactly. And when you feel good, you're naturally more motivated and productive. It's a win-win.
I like that.
Yeah.
A win-win.
Right.
Well, Sarah, this has been great. You shared so many helpful tips. I'm sure our listeners are ready to put them into action.
I hope so.
But before we move on to the next part of this deep dive, I want to hear from you, our amazing listeners. What are your biggest time management challenges? What strategies have worked for you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab for more deep dives into topics that matter. We'll be back soon with even more practical tips and strategies to help you become a time management master.
Okay, great. You know, one of the things I hear a lot from students is that they just feel overwhelmed, like there's just too much to do and not enough time.
Yeah, that's the classic time management dilemma. Too much to do, too little time.
It is. And that's where prioritization comes in. It's not about like magically making more time. It's about figuring out what's really important and then focusing your energy on those things.
So it's about being more strategic with your time, like a
Wow.
detective. You know, analyzing your schedule, figuring out where your time is going, and then choosing how you want to spend it more effectively.
That's a great way to put it. And there's a tool that can be really helpful for that kind of detective work. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, it's a way to decide what tasks are most important by looking at how urgent they are and how important they are. I like to think of it as a way to visualize your to-do list. So you can see which tasks need to be done right away, which ones you can schedule for later, and which ones you can maybe delegate or even get rid of altogether.
I love that. Visualizing your to-do list, it really helps you see what deserves your time and energy.
So let's say a student is feeling super stressed because they have exams and assignments and extracurricular activities all happening at the same time. How could they use this Eisenhower matrix to prioritize everything and get a handle on their workload?
Okay, well, first they would write down every single task and commitment they have. Then, using the matrix, they'd categorize each task based on whether it's urgent and important, or urgent but not important, or important but not urgent, or maybe not even urgent or important at all.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. What are some examples of those different types of tasks?
Sure. An urgent and important task would be like a paper that's due tomorrow, or studying for an exam next week. You know, those are things you need to do right away.
Yeah, those are the drop everything and do this now kind of tasks. What about urgent but not important?
Those might be things like answering emails that aren't super important, or going to meetings that could have just been an email. You know, they seem urgent, but they might not really help you reach your goals.
So it's about figuring out which urgent tasks are actually important and which ones you can push back on.
Exactly. And then you have the tasks that are important, but not urgent. So maybe working on a long-term project, planning for the future, or learning a new skill.
Those are the ones that are easy to put off because they don't have an immediate deadline. But they're the things that can make a big difference in your life in the long run.
You got it.
Oh, wow.
And then finally, you have those tasks that are neither urgent nor important. Things like scrolling through social media, watching mindless TV, or getting caught up in drama. Those are the real-time wasters.
Yeah, those are the ones we got to cut out.
Exactly. So by using the Eisenhower matrix, students can start to see their workload more clearly and make better choices about what to focus on and what to let go of.
I like how this tool can help you take control of your schedule and make choices that support your goals and priorities. It's like having a personal time management coach.
It is.
So we've talked about prioritizing and using the Eisenhower matrix. What else can help students manage that feeling of being overwhelmed and make the most of their time?
Well, sometimes the best thing you can do is just say no.
Wait, say no. Isn't that a bit rude?
Not really. It's about realizing that you can't do everything, and it's okay to set boundaries for yourself. It's about knowing your limits and not taking on so much that you burn yourself out.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one for a lot of students. They want to do everything and please everyone, but sometimes saying no to one thing means you can say yes to something else that's even more important to you.
You're absolutely right. And it's not just about saying no to other people. It's also about saying no to those pressures you put on yourself. You know, that pressure to be perfect or to do everything at once.
Yeah, that's so important to remember. It's about progress, not perfection.
I love that, progress, not perfection.
It takes the pressure off and helps you enjoy the process.
Exactly. So learning to say no is really important for managing your time and avoiding burnout. It's about taking care of yourself and making sure you're not spreading yourself too thin.
So it's about stepping back, looking at what you're committed to, and making sure it lines up with what you value and what you want to achieve. It's about being intentional with your time and energy instead of just reacting to everything that comes your way.
Exactly. And along with saying no, it's also important to embrace balance.
Balance. Yeah. That elusive thing we all want.
I know, right?
But really finding that balance between being productive and taking care of yourself, it can be really hard, especially for students who have so much going on. What are your thoughts on finding that balance?
Well, for me, it's about recognizing that we're not robots. You know, we need time to recharge, to connect with people, to do things that bring us joy and make us feel inspired. It's about creating a life that feels good and not just busy.
So it's about finding a rhythm that works for you, a rhythm that includes work and play effort and rest.
Yeah.
It's about listening to your own needs and limits.
You got it. And it's about making choices about how you spend your time. You know, asking yourself, is this really important to me? Does this help me reach my goals? Or is it just draining my energy?
It's like being a curator of your own time, choosing what you want to fill your days with.
I like that. It's about being mindful and making choices instead of just letting things happen.
So we've covered prioritizing, saying no, and finding balance. What other time management secrets are you willing to share?
Let's talk about downtime. I know it seems like the opposite of time management.
Yeah, how can taking a break help you manage your time better?
Well, think of it like this. When you're always go, go, go and pushing yourself to the limit, your brain gets tired. It's like a muscle that gets overworked. It needs time to rest and recover.
It's like running a marathon without stopping for water. You're going to hit a wall eventually.
Exactly. Downtime gives your brain a chance to rest so you can come back to your work feeling refreshed and energized.
So it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter by taking breaks.
Exactly. And when you take a break, make sure you really disconnect. Get away from screens, get some fresh air, move your body, do something that makes you happy and helps you relax.
So it's about giving your mind and body a chance to recharge.
Yeah,
And when you come back to your work, you'll be more focused and productive.
exactly.
So downtime isn't a luxury. It's essential for anyone who wants to do their best work and have a good balance in their life.
It is. It's an investment in yourself.
I love how you've changed the way we think about downtime. It's not about being lazy. It's about being strategic and setting yourself up for success.
Right.
So we've talked about prioritizing, saying no, finding a balance, and the importance of downtime. What else can we learn about time management?
Let's talk about those little bits of time that we often waste, those 10 minutes between classes, that half-hour commute those times when you're waiting for a friend.
Yeah, those little pockets of time can really add up. But it's easy to just zone out or scroll on your phone. What are some more productive things you can do with that time?
Well, you can use that time for those quick tasks that you keep putting off, like answering emails, making a to-do list, reviewing notes, or even just doing a quick meditation or some stretching.
So it's about paying attention to those small moments and using them intentionally instead of letting them disappear.
Exactly. And you might be surprised by how much you can get done when you start seeing those little bits of time as opportunities instead of just wasted time.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's about shifting your perspective and becoming more aware of how you're spending your time, even those tiny moments.
Exactly. And be prepared to use those moments. Keep a book with you for when you have to wait, have a to-do list on your phone that you can easily check off, or download a meditation app so you can do a quick mindfulness exercise whenever you have a few minutes free.
So it's like having a time management toolkit that you can use whenever you have a little bit of time.
Exactly. And if you plan ahead and think about how you want to use those little pockets of time, they can become productive and even enjoyable parts of your day.
Okay, Sarah, this has been amazing. You've given us so much great advice. I'm sure our listeners are feeling inspired to take control of their time and create a better, more balanced life.
I hope so.
But before we finish up this part of our deep dive, I want to hear from you, our awesome listeners. What are your favorite ways to manage those small pockets of time? Share your tips in the comments. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab for more deep dives into topics that matter. We'll be back soon with the last part of this episode, where we'll talk about some common time management mistakes to avoid and give you even more resources to help you become a time management master. Welcome back to the Learn English Lab. We're wrapping up our deep dive into time management, and I'm really curious about those sneaky little things that can trip us up, even when we think we have a good plan. What are some of the most common pitfalls that students should watch out for?
Well, we've talked a lot about planning and setting priorities, but one of the biggest obstacles to good time management is procrastination. It's that voice in your head saying, you can always do it later, but later often turns into a mad rush the night before something is due.
Oh yeah, that voice. I know it well.
Yeah.
It's a master of making excuses and convincing you that tomorrow is the perfect day to start that big project.
Exactly. And then tomorrow becomes next week, and suddenly that task is hanging over you like a big, scary cloud.
So how can students escape the procrastination trap? What can help them actually start working on something instead of feeling intimidated by it?
One really helpful strategy is to break those large, overwhelming tasks down into smaller, more manageable pieces. So instead of thinking about a 10-page research paper, try focusing on writing just one paragraph each day. It's much easier to get started on something small and specific than something big and daunting.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And once you take that first step, you build momentum and procrastination starts to lose its power over you.
I like that. Once you start moving, it's easier to keep going.
And maybe you could even set up little rewards for yourself when you finish those smaller tasks. A little treat or a break to do something fun. It can really help to keep you motivated.
That's a great idea. Rewards can definitely help you stick to good habits. And speaking of things to watch out for, another common pitfall is overcommitment. It's easy to get excited about new opportunities or to feel like you have to say yes to every request. But if you try to do too much, you'll end up burning yourself out. And that can actually make you less productive in the long run.
I think a lot of students, especially those who are really motivated and want to get the most out of their experience, they struggle with finding that balance between being involved in things and taking on too much.
That's so true. It's really important to be honest with yourself about how much you can handle. Saying no doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're strong and self-aware. You're choosing to prioritize your well-being and make sure you're not sacrificing your health just to please other people or live up to some impossible standard.
It's about setting boundaries,
Yeah.
deciding where you want to invest your time and energy. And sometimes that means saying no to things, even if they seem like good opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's also a good idea to check in with yourself every now and then and see if your commitments still align with your goals and interests. As you learn and grow, you might find that some things aren't as important to you anymore. And that's okay.
Absolutely. It's about being in control of your time and your choices instead of letting things just happen to you.
So we've covered procrastination, overcommitment. Are there any other time management traps that students should be aware of?
One that often gets overlooked is perfectionism. That little voice inside that says, it's not good enough yet, or you need to keep working on this until it's perfect.
Oh yeah, perfectionism. I think we all struggle with that a little bit. There's so much pressure these days to be the best at everything. It can be hard to just put something out there and be okay with it not being perfect.
And the truth is, perfection doesn't really exist. It's always changing. So instead of trying to be perfect, just focus on making progress. Embrace the learning process, even if you make mistakes along the way.
I love that progress over perfection. It's so much more freeing. And when you celebrate the small wins instead of always chasing after some ideal that you might never reach, it's way more motivating.
It is. It's about focusing on the things you can control and letting go of the need to be perfect.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into time management, what's your final piece of advice for our listeners?
Time management. It's a journey, not a destination. There's no magic formula. It's about figuring out what works for you, experimenting with different strategies, and being willing to adjust things as you go along. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your wins, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
That's such great advice. It's
Yeah.
about finding that balance between structure and flexibility, between planning and going with the flow, and most importantly, between trying your best and being kind to yourself. It's about creating a life that feels right for you. Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into time management. We hope you found this helpful and are feeling ready to take charge of your time and create a life that's both productive and fulfilling. Big thanks to Sarah for sharing her expertise with us. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab for more deep dives into topics that matter. Remember, you have the power to manage your time well and create the life you want. So go out there and make the most of every moment.